Okay, Dan, here's a quick video about GarageBand, looking at the buttons on the screen and what they mean. So first, open GarageBand. You can pick a new project or an existing project. I'm going to pick the systemic racism piece I've been working on. So you can see there's a lot of tracks. Most of them are microphone tracks, and I'm talking or dragging pieces of music into that mix. There's no guitar, no bass, no drum machine, nothing like that. We'll start looking at the buttons, beginning all the way at the top left, work our way to the right. This is a preset library for various settings on instruments or microphones. I'm on a microphone track, so we have a ton of preset options for how my voice sounds. I've got it on narration because that's what I'm doing most of the time, narrating. There's a 60s vocal chorus. If I click that preset, it implements it and changes the way the voice sounds. There's 60s vocal flange, 60s vocal phaser, box talking, lots of presets. So to get back to where I was, I'm going to do Command Z, which is undo, pretty much on any program, not just GarageBand. If I do it 3 times, I should be able to get back to where I was, or you can just click narration. Okay, so I'm going to close the library. Next is the Quick Help button. If you click it, a pop-up window appears that explains what everything you mouse over is. It can be handy, it can also be a huge pain in the neck, so I usually just keep it off. Okay, the next button is the Smart Controls button, the so-called Smart Controls button. It's basically the knobs on an amp or one of those metal boxes in a rack in a studio. There are 2 subsettings, Controls and EQ. When you click the EQ, you can see what your sound is doing if you play the track and then click this Analyzer button. There's a lot more that you can do within both of these functions, the controls and the EQ, but I'm going to just keep moving on because this is an overview, not an in-depth masterclass. The next button is the Editor button. Clicking it gives you another view of the track that you've got highlighted. In this case, all of the segments of this track are highlighted. It'll show you the whole track, and then it'll highlight whatever is highlighted in the main window. So now just this one is highlighted. This little slider allows you to adjust the scale of the window, so it works for the editor field down here, and there's also another one up here in the main window. So you can make it big, or you can make it little. Moving further to the right, we get to some familiar buttons. Rewind moves the playhead back 1 bar, which is not helpful for me when I'm doing voiceover narration. Next is the fast forward, which moves the playhead forward 1 bar per click. The next one moves the playhead to the beginning of the file, and it also acts as a stop button when it's playing. Next is the play button, and you know what that is. Next to that is the record button, which you also know what that is. It'll give you a 4-beat count in, and I think that's adjustable also. You can make it up to 8 beats, which will give you more time to let go of your mouse and pick up your sticks. Because I don't want this little segment of dead air, I'm going to delete it by selecting it and hitting the delete key. Next up is the cycle button, which continues to replay a section of the composition that you highlighted. So the way you highlight something is to put your cursor up here in the timeline and click and hold while you drag sideways. So now when you click play, if the cycle button is chosen, it begins playing from the beginning of the selection, regardless of where the playhead is when you click play. You can adjust this section with your cursor by dragging right or dragging left. Does that make sense? Okay, so now I'm going to turn that off and slide over to this display area. It shows the time in minutes and seconds because I'm not working on a piece of music right now, and I just always keep it on minutes and seconds. This little down arrow exposes additional choices. So you can see I have it set for time, but there are other choices. There's beats and time, and another beats and project. Beats and time shows you bar and beat, along with hours, minutes, and seconds. Beats and project is probably a little more useful. Shows the bar and the beat, the tempo, the time signature, and the key. Tempo is adjustable. Just double click it and type in any number you want. You can't do fractions though. And so I'm going to undo that with Control Z. Time signature is a drop-down list with presets, and you can also enter something custom. And key signature is another drop-down with all the keys in major and minor scales, which ought to be enough for most people. Next to that is a tuning fork in case you need to tune your guitar or bass or whatever. And next to that is a count-in button, so turning that on or off gives you that 4-beat, which will give you time to drop the mouse and find your sticks. Next to that is a simple metronome that clicks according to the tempo that you set in the display at the left. And further to the right is the master volume slider, and it controls all of the tracks. And each individual track also has a volume slider. Furthest to the right is two more little buttons. One of them is a notes widget that I never use, and the other one is a loops library, which I also never use. It has a ton of short chunks of music, filterable by instrument and genre. This is a 12-bar blues played on bass. You can just drag it and drop it into the workspace. And then you can also just delete it by highlighting it and clicking delete. So that's the overview of what the buttons up top do. Maybe next time I can put together something that'll show you how changing the key or tempo affects the music tracks that you've got down here in the timeline, and maybe some other basic operations for a beginning GarageBand engineer.